Intermittent fasting is definitely something that it should be part of the longevity regime.
How do we define a reputable longevity clinic?
Yes, I'm so happy that you mentioned it.
New gerotherapeutic interventions.
It needs to be validated and it needs to be standardized.
Is genetic testing perhaps currently underestimated in diagnostics?
Well, and Michael wanted to surprise us, and he did surprise us.
Music and spirituality were topics at your conference. That's new.
In terms of longevity, only 7% is really due to genetics, and the rest is epigenetics.
Welcome to staYoung. Our listeners, viewers, are extremely interested in new study results, insights into healthy longevity, and usually even more in what we can do today in a practical way and scientifically proven. There is an address. This is the Roundtable of Longevity Clinics, which took place for the second time in December 2024 at the renowned Buck Institute for Research on Aging in California. She launched this roundtable and has created a lighthouse for all those who are putting healthy longevity into practice. And I want to find out the most important new findings from her, for you, from 2 intensive days on the west coast of the US. She's the founder and CEO of Longevity Center Europe. Joanna Bensz, welcome to staYoung.
Thank you so much, Nina. It is wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. What was the spirit like at this roundtable?
The spirit was actually amazing because this is one of the very few conferences in the sector of longevity dedicated to clinics and really talking about practical applications, and not only on the scientific side, but it was all about what can we do here and now, what can we do in clinics, what are already clinics doing, and and also many like-minded people on stage, but also in the audience. It was about 250 people because at the Buck Institute we can't actually have larger events, but this gave us an opportunity to really have kind of a group of people from all around the world that are really focusing on what can we do today to make to help actually our clients and anybody that is interested in longevity to stay young and to feel healthier.
Yeah, and whether a conference is significant can be easily seen from the names of the speakers. This roundtable was significant, huh?
I mean, this was definitely, I think, very, very important to us to bring the right names, to invite the right companies, but also we had people like Peter Diamandis, who is, we don't have to introduce. He's a very well-known person in this field. Peter was there in person. He addressed our audience as well in terms of many different areas that are happening, both in longevity, but also in terms of X Prize, for example. But also we had people like Dean Ornish, like James Kirkland, like Andrea Myers, and also, of course, Eric Verdin, the president of the Buck. So many names that have been in the sector for many years, but also many new comers that we have invited that are very connected to the topic of longevity, to the topic of what can we do today, what is impacting longevity, that were maybe not that well known to the wider public, but very well known in the clinics. So for example, suppliers of certain technologies that we use, but also our client use. We had a whole section on brain health. We had a whole section of new diagnostics, and with excellent names and excellent companies presenting what they do and where the sector is going.
Great. Let's cruise a little bit through the program. Eric Verdin, you mentioned, head of the Buck Institute, is a friend of clear words and discussed the challenges and opportunities of longevity clinics in 2024 with the CEOs of well-known longevity clinics right at the beginning,
yes,
including you. What are the biggest challenges?
Well, also, Eric Verdin is, of course, the president of the Bach Institute, but he also joined our International Institute of Longevity, which is really now an association of international different clinics um, offering longevity medicine to their clients. And together with myself and also with Tina Woods, who is our executive director. And in this context, we really addressed the current stage of where the sector is at the moment, what is happening in the clinics as well, and how many clinics there are, what we want to achieve with this conference, and also with the white papers that we are producing after the conference. So at the moment when we did research, there's about 3,000 clinics around the world that are providing some kind of longevity services or that are providing longevity medicine. But the thing is that many of them actually are not even medical. And what we need in the sector, both clinics, but also the general public especially, is really to understand what is real, what is not real, what is medical, what is validated, and what is not validated. And I think this is where it was important to invite those clinics that are really following strict medical protocol. And we had about 10 clinics on stage, but also quite a number in the audience. And Eric, of course, presented, what the Bach Institute is doing now, because a few years ago, Bach Institute wasn't very involved in human studies. So, but then since the last few years, also they started really doing more practical applications and more studies on P4 medicine, for example, on phenome health, together with Dr. Lee Hood, who was also presented. So I think, or even female longevity. I mean, this is a huge new area that it's the Bach Institute and Jennifer Garnison it's actually the main, let's say, nucleus for about 47 different other organizations around the world that are focusing on different studies on female health, and it's centralized at the Bach Institute. So they are playing a very important role, both on the scientific importance of those studies, but also as a place where the science meets the practical side. And therefore, this is why we decided to do it for the second time at the Bach, and we will have an annual event there to see where the sector is progressing. We had also Andrea Myers and also Nicole Sirodin from representing their clinics, but also representing an organization called Human Longevity Medical Society, HLMS, who is focusing, who is bringing together doctors practicing longevity medicine, and also they are interested in establishing certain type of guidelines for doctors. As International Institute of Longevity, we would like to establish guidelines for clinics at different levels, not only medical, but also customer experience, different technologies that we are using or not. And therefore we need a consensus as well, in a way, and discussing different best practices that are already between used by clinics, or technology platforms that we are using, or joint research that we could do between clinics. I mean, there's a lot of potential collaboration on one side, which is going to only help the general publics, general public, other clinics, and the industry to really know what is real, what is not real, and how to work with some of those biomarkers and new technologies and interventions.
So this is work in progress. And let's listen to Facts and Figures. Phil Newman, founder and CEO of the major platform Longevity Technology, presented the results of his longevity clinic survey. What concerned you the most?
Well, the fact that actually some of the clinics are not using at all biological ages. I mean, and if you are not doing too many diagnostics at all, It was very interesting. It was about, I think, 56 clinics attending his survey. We want to definitely do it wider. If there is 3,000 clinics out there, we want, many more to, we want to understand really what is happening around the world, and what is currently really used by those clinics. But there's definitely, it was very interesting results, because many of the clinics are using very similar biomarkers, which is very positive, and do at least the 360-degree assessments. Most of them are doing the basic preventive medicine test, which is very important to really start the journey. You need to understand your baseline before you start recommending what supplements or what other innovative recommendations and interventions you might use. You really need to understand your current state of health, and for that, it seems that most of the clinics attending doing the survey were actually in consensus that they do that. Some of them are using MRI, some of them are using other type of diagnostic tools. But I think in his survey, it was over 60% of the clinics using biological ages as KPI, as to assess results of interventions. And this is very, very important that we all look at that, because it's nice to give advice, but we really want to see whether this advice works and what are the outcomes of those recommendations, and whether the client is really getting biologically younger or functionally younger, and whether they feel better. So I think knowing what the market is currently is very important, but also promoting the fact that using biological ages and also the biomarkers of aging, it's an important component of being a longevity clinic.
That leads us to Andrea Meyer's lecture. I guess it's important. She's not only an important longevity researcher at the University of Singapore, but also co-founder of the She Longevity Clinic there.
Yes.
In my words, how do we define a reputable longevity clinic?
I think it's also in Andrea's talk. She was also talking about what the Human Longevity Medical Society is doing at the moment in terms of setting up certain standards for doctors, bringing together doctors that are like-minded in the longevity medicine, but also establishing different training programs. And I think this is very important, that we have certain standards that we can follow, especially in industries like medical industry, that it needs to be validated and it needs to be standardized. And I think there's more and more best practices best practice tools and best practice guidelines being created. She mentioned also the work with Nicole Sirotin from Abu Dhabi, where they were collaborating on establishing the first guidelines for a country like Abu Dhabi, which is the only country in the world today that established guidelines for longevity clinics in the country, and even guidelines that need to be followed, and certification that is given to clinic to practice longevity medicine. And this is the first time that it was actually established. And Nicole's organization is the first clinic in the world that in Abu Dhabi and the world that it's actually that has received this certification. And I think it's a very interesting model that can be used by other countries, other medical societies in other locations that can be followed. I think this was one of the most interesting. She was also talking about importance of collaboration between all our organizations. There is also a very important now work by the Biomarkers Consortium, Biomarkers Foundation, on evaluating different biomarkers that are out there. And so most of the organizations are actually really focusing on different aspects of what is important in the sector. And we are still a small sector, and we really need to collaborate together to have joint recommendations, to have very similar guidelines or very similar take, so that that we really build a very strong foundation for the medical society to use.
Regarding biomarkers, which is so interesting for us all, Ryan Smith, founder of True Diagnostic, talked about his epigenetic clock, which Eric Verdin recently described as the best, and other biomarkers as well for measuring biological age. How will you measure in your longevity clinics in the future?
Well, we use a number of different biomarkers, and we also, of course, use True Diagnostics. They're one of the best companies out there. And Ryan chaired the whole panel. I think he presented his new Symphony Age, which is also able to measure different organs, aging of different organs. And, his clocks are very interesting, and his biomarkers. We are using True Diagnostics at the moment. One of the clocks is Eric's Verdin clock, but also he's using other epigenetic clocks in the same, let's say, test. And it's definitely very interesting. I mean, it's for us as a clinic, it's one of the tests that we use, but also we correlate it with everything that we test. And this is the most important for clinics, to have validated and very well designed biomarkers with good, interesting recommendations that doctors can use, but also that are easy translated with everything else that we measure, from blood tests to MRI to cognitive testing, so that we really understand the correlations. And also Ryan chaired actually a panel when there was a few other speakers, and there was additional tests that he mentioned that were also that the companies are also collaborating with True Diagnostics in terms of genetics, nutrigenomics, but also there was a very interesting new marker in terms of senescent cells that is also going to be available for general public. So I think there's more definitely tools that we can use as clinics, but you can only imagine there are so many different tests that we can do on a client. At the end of the day, the client has to understand, what can I do with all this? Why do I do all this tests? And what does it actually mean? If I measure my mitochondria, or if I measure my senescent cells, so what can I do then? Because there is every day, there's more and more biomarkers that we discover that we can use. But I think we need some kind of a consensus. What is the basic list of biomarkers that should be used in clinics? And what are the most validated? And definitely, True Diagnostics is one of the most well-known companies in this field, and well respected by many of the clinics that were in the public.
And you just mentioned shortly genetics. There was Gel Joff from 3x4 Genetics. Is genetic testing perhaps currently underestimated in diagnostics?
It's not underestimated, but it's definitely not overestimated. I mean, it's and you remember, and I think you quoted it a few times, that Eric Verdin says that in terms of longevity, only 7% is really due to genetics, and the rest is epigenetics. But on the other side, also there's 3x4 Genetics. They are also very much into nutrigenomics, which are very important. I mean, the pharmacogenomics and nutrigenomics are very useful tools for nutritionists, for clinics, but also for doctors, of course, to recommend treatment recommendations, diet recommendations, and also to pharmacogenomics in terms of the interventions, the medical interventions that we can recommend. So that genetic predisposition will always be important, but I think it was also quoted by a number of our speakers during the 2 days that, and I think it was Mike Roizen saying from Cleveland Clinic, he said that genetic is really important, but actually it's important when you don't do anything. But it's really when you really focus on your diet, on your lifestyle. I think it is still important, but it doesn't mean that whatever your predisposition, that it will end up actually happening in your life. And predispositions are very good to know. But if you know how to manage your health and how to design your longevity, medical, nutritional, and also, journey at any level of in terms of lifestyle, then it's becoming less important, but it's still interesting.
Mm-hmm. So we reached the topic interventions, what to do when you have been diagnosed with an age status. Music and spirituality were topics at your conference. That's new in the strictly
I'm so
science-based
happy that
longevity
you,
field.
yes, I'm so happy that you mentioned it, because um, especially that this topic is actually quite well researched. And last year there was a very interesting book, I think even this year, published, Music and Mind, and in this book there's a number of different authors actually quoted that are doing research in terms of how music influences our brain health, our overall well-being and health. And one of our speakers is doing this research at the University of California, of San Francisco. Sorry. And Indra Viscontas, she's not only a psychologist that is actually studying music and how music impacts brain, and also various conditions related with brain health, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But also, she's an opera singer. So she was presenting to us the importance of music and also the chills, and how does it work with why do we actually have these certain sensations when we heard the music, and what do they actually mean for our hormonal system, for our for our brain health. And being an opera singer, she surprised everyone in the middle of the presentation by actually starting singing and presenting it at the same time on what does it actually do on the chart of the impact on our health. Now, it was super interesting, and there's a lot of research. We know that some music is influencing positively us, or putting us, in an uplifting mode. But she was also presenting a very interesting case of one Alzheimer client that at first on the recording, he was walking very slowly and very unsure. And then once he heard the music that he knew, he actually started, not only feeling the music, but like he started walking in a more confident way. I don't know whether this was just one of the case or this is happening more often, but she's studying this type of clients and trying to understand why music has such a strong impact on our subconscious and our brain. And then the topic on spiritual longevity. Rinpoche, Tenzin Rinpoche has been, he's a Buddhist Lama, and he's not only studying Buddhism, but also, of course, he wrote a number of books about sleep, and also how sleep impacts, the connection between sleep and also meditation and sleep and health. He's also tracking his own sleep with both Aura and Whoop, and giving us a very interesting learnings from his personal journey. His sleep scores are annoyingly perfect because he was able to have 3 weeks of 100, which is very difficult for me to reach when I travel and organize events like this at the end of the world. But this was also a very interesting presentation for our audience, because we were presenting also a number of studies that he does with the University of Texas on how meditation techniques and different breathing techniques are helping patients with that are going through chemotherapy, for example. And there was a few publications that they did last year and 2 years ago. Surprisingly, there are not too many yet studies on Tibetan Buddhism and impact on meditation. And this is what we want to do also with some clinics, because I think especially meditation and breathing exercises have been mentioned by most of the clinics, that this is something that they recommend their clients for, regulating their stress level and nervous system and the vagus nerve. So we know it's important. It's just some clients want to use technologies to do that, and different stimulators that you can put on your ear and around your neck to stimulate your vagus nerve. Or you can learn how to do the breathing exercises and how to do meditation techniques that are actually helping you to regulate your nervous system. So this was also another very, I think, surprising for many of our audience, but very interesting presentation.
These techniques have to be integrated into your recommendations and interventions. That's clearer, I guess. Nutritional supplements. What's new? You had the Chief Wellness Officer, former, of the Cleveland Clinic, Michael Roizen, on this.
Well, and Michael wanted to surprise us, and he did surprise us, because he was presenting on importance of personalized supplementation, which we know that it is important to do it, to personalize your diet and nutrition and supplementation based on your results. But he did a number of research studies, and it seems that actually supplementation is quite low on the list of interventions that are priority to us. So I think anybody that is telling you that you have to take 60 supplements and this is going to help you live longer, I think if you don't do anything else, then it's not going to help you. I think it's really important that we do first everything else, from really the right testing and optimization of our health. Definitely movement was much higher on the list. And of course he mentioned some of the standard ones that all of us should be supplementing, like Q10 or omega-3 or D3, but also it's always better to do it when you know your test results. But I think his message, first of all, was don't overdo it and don't overestimate the power of supplements if you don't do anything else.
Walter Longo, the nutrition guru for healthy longevity from the University of California, also spoke. Anything new for us?
I think maybe not new to people that are already following the intermittent fasting. He definitely re-emphasized the importance of intermittent fasting, and that at least 3 days in a month, it's making a huge difference. So you don't have to do it every day, and you don't have to do it really for a long time. But like he showed us studies that at least that even 3 days in a row, it's making a huge difference. And that intermittent fasting is definitely something that it should be part of the longevity regime.
Also for elder people? I'm not sure.
Actually, this question was asked. Walter said that also we didn't have enough studies with older people. There was also one lady asking, "What about skinny, healthy people? Do we also have to do that?" And we didn't get maybe the 100% answer on that. And also there was another question about female health and intermittent fasting. I think there's definitely more research needed for women, because and Walter didn't really answer that. I think he said that he's not focusing on this part, but we definitely have had a few questions with regards to female health and intermittent fasting. And I think this is something that needs to be a bit more researched, because where for men it works at any always, they can actually do intermittent fasting and it's good for them. With women, we have to be more mindful in terms of our cycle as well. And and there's definitely more investigation to be done in this area.
What a pity. And then the grand seigneur, James Kirkland, now director of advanced therapeutics at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. New gerotherapeutic interventions. Which ones?
Actually, he's going to bring, because this is a new center that is just being established in Sinai in LA, and James was presenting, different aspects of, because he's focusing on neuroscience and how to really understand the process of old age, and he was presenting to us the whole, let's say, a number of different areas that he's going to be introducing, but nothing in particular, but kind of the whole range of the best learnings that he has since many years he has been in this sector. So he was re-emphasizing only what was already well validated and what is new. So I think it's in this context we have to wait and see because it's a very new center that is just being established.
Okay, this I learned. And the panel discussion with 3 leading employees of the Fountain Life Clinic, including CEO William Kapp. What does their cloud platform for precision medicine look like? Can we only applaud with envy?
No, I think it is, and what I really liked also running my own clinic, I like how Bill presented, and he clearly showed on one of the slides importance of connecting the medical aspect, scientific aspect, and the technological aspect, because and therefore he invited also on stage his chief of medical and also scientific officer, but also technology officer, and they presented jointly. It is a very interesting platform, definitely, and being also backed up by Peter Diamandis and a number of technology gurus. I think this also looks very impressive what they do, and definitely all our clinics are looking at ways how to use digital platforms in the most interconnected way. I think what Fountain Life now is doing with their 8,000 clients already that they have, or members, as they call them, that they can already upload their results and also see the interconnections of between the results and recommendations that they are giving. But definitely their platform, and also it's a potential for collaboration between also with other clinics that are using similar biomarkers, because we need to have data on many more clients. Between our clinics, we have 2, 3, 4,000 clients, and this is still not enough for AI to be able to analyze it. But definitely collaboration between clinics would be very, very important. What they have presented, and it was Ellen Meissner from Fountain Life. She also presented one study they did on arterial stiffness, on how many, because with AI, also with, I would say, big data, you can analyze trends. And with 8,000 clients, you can already see how many of those clients have come with no symptoms, for example, and they had already plaques in their arteries that only with the use of modern diagnostics can be seen. And also, if they can be seen, we can do something against that with diet, exercise, and also, lifestyle. But if you don't know that you have plaques, it can lead to much more risky conditions that lead to stroke or to heart failure. So I think this was a very interesting study, and that they showed that I think about, I don't remember now the exact statistics, but it was quite about, I think 20% didn't know that they have plaques and they had plaques. We see very similar trends as well, that because these are some of the asymptomatic, completely asymptomatic results. And they are usually very young clients. And what also show between what we have seen between clinics, we have very similar age groups. So there's more and more younger people coming to longevity clinics, starting at 35, because it's a good age where you already see that there's certain hormonal changes. You start seeing that you are aging and noticing the first symptoms of aging. But it's also a very good moment to actually start taking care of your health. And so it was in a number of clinics, whether it's human longevity or Fountain Life or also Chi. It was a very similar age group as well.
So we have to add Lee Hood, founder and CEO of Phenom Health. What does he have to say about data-driven diagnostics and intervention?
I mean, Lee Hood is amazing. He's 80 plus. I'm not going to mention the exact name, but he's very impressive. And as you know, he's a father of P4 medicine. He really started now Phenom Health, which is kind of a result of many years of understanding correlations of data. He was presenting on also the importance of digital twins and how we can, with a number of different tests that we can correlate, we can really create a very detailed digital twin solutions that and understand ourselves. And also he mentioned, again, with his platform and what he's establishing at the Back Institute, how important it would be to work with different clinics. So on one side, you can do research at a university like Back Institute or at the research center, but on the other side, it will be very important to involve clinics that are working with existing living clients and actually have certain interventions to work with him and to create a platform that we can actually use among many clinics around the world and to join large studies. This is what we want to do as an International Institute of Longevity, also to create certain platform for companies where we compete in some areas because we might compete for some clients in some geographies, but in generally, I think we can actually have a number of different collaboration platforms to bring the industry forward and to bring the services that all of us providing forward. And I think the platform created by Lee Hood with Phenom Health, it would be one of the most advanced solutions as well that we could use.
Exciting. Last question. Let's go back to the roots of longevity interventions. News from plasmapheresis, the blood wash that eliminates age-causing factors, from founder Dobry Kiprov. Something new?
Yes, Dobry, together with Eric Verdin, they had, he's now collaborating with the Back Institute, and he was presenting very promising results with some of their clients. Most of the clients were over 60, but in most of those cases, they were very promising results, actually, in terms of pain management or certain mainly most of the clients that he presented actually were had come to the clinic with different aspects of pain, and then there were many testimonials that he presented that most of those clients, after I think the 2 or 3 of those treatments, were feeling enormously better. But I think this is again something that needs to be more researched. But I think it's very, very important that Dobry is doing this with the Back Institute, which is going to be published, validated, and definitely it will be easier for the clinics to decide whether this is something we are ready for and we can include in our standard routines.
Will you do that?
We will do it for certain clients because also, I was asking whether we had studies with younger people, like for example, below 50 or around 50. I am around that age, so I would be interested. Many of our clients have, premenopause or menopause with various conditions. Whether is it something that we can use already then? I think there's not enough research with younger people yet, but somebody has to do this research. So if the client will be opened, we will be definitely investigating whether we can use it in Europe. As you know, Europe is a bit more conservative, but in some way, in a good way. So we are waiting until learnings by other colleagues around the world, and then we can implement it in Europe. But definitely, this is one of the areas I will be considering for my clinic. Not immediately, but definitely we will be starting collaboration with Dobry.
Joanna, an incredible amount of content, the top names among longevity experts. What is the future of the Longevity Roundtable at Buck?
Definitely what was emphasized by everyone. And, we had people like, we didn't talk about Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish, it's one of the, also for me, most important people that are talking about for many years about nutrition. And actually, he presented very interesting study. And I very shortly also say about that. It was published this year, actually. He analyzed about 40 different early stage Alzheimer patients, and they put them on about 8 weeks diet, exercise, and also meditation regime, the Ornish program. And they were incredible results. In some cases, they were able to really reverse the symptoms in 8 weeks. And we are not talking about something that you can't do. I mean, it's really diet, exercise, and meditation, and mindfulness in some cases. And it's really incredible how underestimated the power of lifestyle is. And therefore, like Dean Ornish said something very interesting at the beginning, and many of the speakers were quoting it, that instead of being afraid of dying, we should start enjoying living. And this was, for me, the most powerful aspect. And I think what is really important also for conferences like this, that most of the speakers were referring to other speakers, and it was all interconnected because the whole field is actually what we are presenting in clinics is interconnected. It has to be interconnected. We have to understand why we are doing diagnostics to use certain interventions, and for the interventions to see whether they work using the diagnostics. So it's a field that we have to make sure that we talk to each other. We really understand who is doing what works, what doesn't work, and why, and what are the standards that we can slowly introduce and respect and follow. And also, definitely, we will be doing this event annually at the back, but we are also planning another event in Europe and one in Asia to really also bring together clinics that are located in other parts of the world to have a similar discussion, but for example, in Europe at the European level, inviting representatives of the European Commission to have a bit more discussions that are more local, let's say, if I can say it. And especially in the US, you have a very unified country in terms of regulations, where in Europe, every country has different regulations with regards to longevity, medicine, and I think it will be also important to have these discussions somewhere in Europe, and definitely this is something we are going to do. In the next month, we want to finalize our white paper summarizing the conference, so it should be available at the end of January on our website and on the website of the Roundtable. And I will definitely share it with you so that we can have a discussion about that.
But who wants to know what happened has to listen to our podcast.
Yes,
It's
this is the
such
most
a very, yeah, really, it's a wonderful trip. And really, last question. You are the founder, you are the creator of the Roundtable for Longevity Clinics. You can be so proud.
I'm very proud about the fact that we really liked to spend time with each other, because you might see, okay, this is competition, we shouldn't be talking to each other. But it was so nice to see competition, co-opetition, people that are in the same sector actually wanting to share, talk, and exchange. And this is what I like about the Roundtable, actually, that it was really a great platform for people to collaborate, or to, if they don't, then start collaborating and also learning from each other. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of my team that make it happen also and help me to make it happen.
Nothing to add. Thank you very much, Joanna Bensz.
Really nice.
Great,
Thank you
great,
for
great what
everything
you're
you're
doing.
for the sector.
Thank you.
Thank you.